Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 24th episode of Limerick Junior Soccer Focus with myself, Adrian Finnin, and joined once again this evening by Aidan Ryan. As we have a very upbeat programme, it's fair to say, tonight, Aidan. We got our wish with 3 Limerick sides advancing to the semi-final of the Munster Junior Cup. We were delighted with that, it's fair to say. And just, I suppose, to jump straight into the games themselves, Aidan, on Saturday last week, with Ballynanty Rovers coming through fairly unscathed, it's fair to say, 3-0 victory over College Corinthians. We were hopeful that it would be a relatively straightforward day for Ballynanty, as straightforward as they can be, I suppose, at that stage of a Munster competition. You had Habib Ingebido, Josh Adams and Darren Fitzgerald with a free kick getting on the score sheet. So a good day for Ballynanty.
Good day for Ballynanty, Adrian. Great weekend for Limerick football to have 3 teams into the semi-final. I suppose we called this result, didn't we? We kind of expected Balla to come through this one. Again, kept the clean sheet, which Balla seemed to be doing regularly in these cup competitions, and it's so important. But the key to these games as well, especially away from home, Adrian, they scored after, I think it was 15 minutes. I think Aberdeen got the goal after 15. You think the second goal came after half an hour. So yeah. Josh Adams coming up with the third goal, and a regular goal for him at this stage after, I think, 60 or 70 minutes. So really good victory away from home. We expected them to do it, but the fact that they stamped their authority early in the match after 15 minutes is so important when you're playing these games away. So it was great to see Balla coming home with the victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know as well, and in another boost, it was one thing I noticed, that a player coming off the bench who maybe has fallen off the radar due to injury, unfortunately for himself, was Eddie Burns, who could be a key player for them if they can have him for the run into the season and up to fitness.
Yeah, well, we just see how he's come through this game now, Adrian. I haven't heard any reports after it in terms of how the injury went for him, because he's been out a long while. They'll obviously be hoping that his recovery after the game will be okay, and it will be important that he looks after the recovery, because some fellas can come back a little bit too early after a serious injury and push themselves too hard. But you see, players want to play in these games as well. As I said last week, it's a great time to be involved in Ballynanty when you're into the semi-final of the two big cups in the country, the Provincial Cup, obviously, and then the FAI.
Yeah, absolutely. And joining them as well in that will be Region United, who also had a very routine victory, a 4-0 victory at home against Avondale. That was another one where you were hopeful that Region would come through it, although I didn't expect it to be quite as comprehensive on the score sheet. Owen Duff got a brace, Kieran O'Connell and Andrew Cowper, regional stalwarts, obviously on the score sheet as well. So, as last 8 ties go in the Munster Junior Cup, that's as good as it's going to get, Aidan, really.
Yeah, we felt there were good ties from there, didn't we? We felt that these 2 ties, they were good ties for the Limerick sides. And again, did they score after 15, 20 minutes? Maybe 3-0 up at half time. The usual suspects coming up with the goals: Kieran O'Connell, obviously Andrew Cowper, and my man Owen Duff chipping in with 2 goals, which will add to his tally for the top scorer for the season, which we'll be delighted with that. But great to see him keeping a clean sheet again. And listen, they'll be looking forward to the semi-final now. Obviously, themselves and Balla are going to be meeting each other. So that has all the makings of a fantastic game. Great to see them coming through it, and by all accounts, a comfortable win.
Yeah, and that's something we will be getting on to the semi-final pairings soon, Aidan. But not before we discuss Fairview Rangers, which was a really dramatic win. And you'll know all about that after making the trip to Tipperary. They overcame Peak Villa 3-2 on the day. It only begins to tell the story of the drama, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, listen, I was looking forward to this game, and I'm glad I went down to see it. Really good game overall. Have to say, Adrian, disappointed with how Fairview played, even though they won the game. And a bit like Balla, I suppose, down in Killarney in the FAI, you have to do what you have to do to win, and they did what they had to do. But if you're a neutral looking at this game, and certainly if you're Peak Villa looking at this game, Adrian, they'll be scratching their heads wondering how they left this game. They left this game behind them. This game was in their control, and I thought they let it slip. Not a whole lot in the first half. I thought Peak were on top, Adrian. Fairview started well for about 5 or 6 minutes, but Peak got to grips with the game, and they kind of dominated the football really without I suppose hurting Fairview. Had a couple of headers just over the bar, and that Josh McCarthy in goal, I thought did very well. Took a couple of dangerous balls, dominated his box. But Pike were the team on top until Jeffrey Judge's goal, Adrian, after half an hour. The Pike left full, who had been having a fantastic match up to then on Darragh Rainsford, just thought he could nip in and make an interception on the ball that was on his way out to Rainsford. Didn't make it. Rainsford got in behind him, got to the byline, squared a fantastic ball, and Jeffrey Judge side-footed the ball into the corner of the net for a really good goal. Fantastic quality about it. 1-0 at half-time. Second half, familiar pattern, Pike dominating the game, Adrian. Just at times, Adrian, it was hard to see Fairview getting out of their half. They couldn't get out of their half. And I was a bit surprised with the tactics as well. They played their usual 4-3-3, but it was very predictable. I didn't think the front three for Fairview did particularly well. Coughlin, Ellis, or Rainsford at times. I didn't think they were playing like they normally play. Didn't have that spark in their game. And I thought they were taking the wrong options, and the decision-making was poor. And on 70 minutes, Pete got the equaliser, deserved the equaliser. Left full, Byrne got down the left wing, pulled the ball back, and a great finish into the corner of the net. 1-1 within a minute. It was 2-1. Fairview had a corner, got caught in the break, and two scourges during the match for Peakville in terms of Fairview. Keith Cahill and Ronan Maguire combined and caught Fairview for pace in behind. Another great finish, 2-1. And I'll tell you something now, Adrian, it could have been 3 or 4-1 after that, because Fairview were in trouble, in my opinion. Pike were slicing through them like butter. And that league goal came with about 18 minutes left, Adrian. And for the next 7 or 8 minutes, Fairview decided to go 3 at the back. And I actually said to Steve Callahan came down to the game with me, and I said that Pike were going to score again. They looked like they were going to score again. But for some reason, Adrian, with 12 minutes left, the Pike sideline decided to take off the two best players in the pitch, in my opinion, Keith Cahill and Ronan Maguire. And they went 4-5-1 at the back and decided to leave Steve Carroll up top in his zone, brought on 2 defensive players into that 5 across the middle, and obviously decided tactically to wait it out and to defend it. And I thought it played into Fairview's hands, and I thought the pendulum swung a bit. And Fairview started launching a lot of balls into the box because Pete decided to defend deep and didn't have as much pace on the pitch when they were breaking against the 3 at the back for Fairview. And I thought tactically it was a mistake. And eventually Fairview wore them down. 3 minutes injury time, got a penalty, and it was definitely a penalty. Make no mistake about it. And Steve Bradley kept his cool and got the equaliser, Adrian. And we were into extra time.
Absolutely. And I know Jack Carra played a big part in extra time. Hearing also as well that, you know, from yourself and others, Aidan, that it may have been a harsh sending off.
Well, into extra time, Adrian, you could feel, as I said, the pendulum swung big time. I thought Pete looked a beaten side, and Fairview took over extra time. And Jack Carra, who had come on for really the ineffective Conor Ellis, and actually Conor Ellis missed the one chance he had in the game, a fantastic chance, Adrian, when they were 2-1 down. He missed a simple header from about 8 yards out. But Ara came on. I thought he made a big difference to the team, Adrian. He held the ball up, he recycled it, he ran the channels, and physically he worked really hard getting at the Peak back line. And he got the lead goal going into extra time. The first few minutes, again, Rainsford got down the right. Very, very good cross into the box, Adrian. And Ara peeled off to the back post and side-footed the ball home. Now, I can't remember his first yellow card. If I remember right, he was probably deserved because he took one for the team. I think he just caught a fella who was trying to break free, and he got a yellow card for it. But his second yellow, I thought, was very, very harsh, Adrian. I didn't think it was deserved at all. But look, he got it. He was sent off.
It's going to be a problem now, Aidan, isn't it? Because if you look at it, how many times we said it this year that he maybe has rescued Fairview in games, particularly off the bench, coming off as an impact player. Maybe Conor Ellis not firing on all cylinders as well, Aidan, but it just it now into the only option, obviously, for the next Munster Junior game in that semi-final, which Ara will miss now, is Conor Ellis, and you won't have that impact off the bench if there was to be a non-starter.
Yeah, he's going to be a huge loss. He put in a huge shift when he came on. I would have brought him on a lot earlier, Adrian. I thought he would have affected the game a lot earlier if he'd have if Paul had brought on Jack Ara maybe a few minutes into the second half, actually. That's how ineffective I thought some of the Fairview frontmen were. They weren't making any impression in the game for me. And I thought tactically that front three didn't use their heads as well as they should have, and their decision making was poor. And he's going to be a huge loss, in my opinion, an absolutely massive loss, because he affected the game when he came on, and you want your men off the bench to affect the game, and he certainly did that. So it'll be a big disappointment for him personally, but it'll be a big blow to Fairview in that semi-final, Adrian. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, we mentioned it actually in the FAI, and obviously Fairview went out of that competition, but we mentioned it even in the games that they may have got through, that we didn't see them firing on all cylinders, maybe particularly the front three players, like they were earlier on in the league season as well. I suppose, look, you can look at it two ways. If you're a Fairview supporter, or if you're Paul Danaher, you look at it as we didn't play very well. We got out with the win, being obviously the massive takeaway from it. They got through the game. But is there also maybe, a slight concern there that maybe Fairview aren't, playing particularly well in the games? I know people say it's about results and getting through in cup competitions. We have said it ourselves. That's fair enough. But, there's a time where you feel like you do also have to play well, at some stage in the bigger games.
Well, as Trapper Tony says, Adrian, it's not about the show, it's all about results. Yeah. And Paul Danaher can echo that. At the end of the day, they showed a bit of character, Adrian, because they were two down away from home against home officials, by the way. So they did show a bit of character to come through the game. As I'm saying, I think Pete left them off the hook. I didn't think Pete's sideline made good decisions, and I thought some of the Pete players kind of slumped a little bit when some of those decisions were made. The confidence seemed to be knocked out of them. Having said all that, Fairview got through the results, not playing particularly well. On the way home, we were having a discussion about it, Adrian, and I was trying to think of players on that Fairview team who actually played well, and I was struggling. I thought the keeper was outstanding, Josh McCarthy. Yeah. He made 3 or 4 excellent stops during the game. He dominated his box. He was nice and loud. He was like a sweeper at times. His distribution was good. Other than that, I was looking maybe at Stephen Bradley, who took a yellow card earlier on in the match and who kept his discipline throughout the game to stay in the game, Adrian. He was very important for Fairview and how he played. I thought Shane Duggan put in a very good shift. Maybe Jeffrey Judge, kind of in and out of the match. He was carrying an injury, a lot of heavy strapping on his knee. I thought he did quite well. And maybe Dylan at the back, I thought he did quite well. But other than that, Adrian, what's that, 4 or 5 players? I thought the other 5 or 6 were quite poor on the day. Didn't play particularly well. Thought the decision making was poor, and just weren't on the game, Adrian. And listen, the pitch wasn't bad. No, he was in good condition, I thought, given the weather we'd had, and we were speaking about that during the week, weren't we? About how I felt then that maybe Fairview need a firm ground, especially the front men, in order to play. But I didn't think they played particularly well, but they kept going. They showed a bit of character. And at the end of the day, Adrian, they're into the semi-final of the Munster Junior Cup, and they're the holders, and they'll want to retain it. And Paul Danaher can throw that at anybody, including myself. It is all about results, Adrian.
Absolutely. And obviously, people will say, they have great experience, obviously, with the likes of Shane Duggan and Jeffrey Judge, who you mentioned in the squad. But you did mention maybe when Ballynanty were going to Dublin a few weeks ago, Aidan, that, when you're up against it away from home, the last thing you want, for instance, is a Limerick side coming back making excuses that there was home officials, like you were saying there, against every, and the game was going against you. So to be fair to Fairview, like you have mentioned a couple of times already, obviously managed to get through that, and that's a huge thing, to be fair.
And scored 3 goals away from home, Adrian. Down to 10 men in extra time. Saw the game out. I thought they actually did really well in extra time over the 2 periods. I thought some of the decisions by the officials during the game slightly favoured Pike, which you would expect, because they're home officials. But what the big important decision, Adrian, the big important decision, 3 minutes into injury time, those home officials made sure that Fairview got the penalty and didn't bottle it. And it was a penalty because the Peak contingent weren't particularly arguing about it. And I thought Peak were suffering a bit in that last 10 minutes, Adrian, when they had gone 4-5-1. I didn't think it suited their style of play. I don't think
that it was in, sorry to cut across you, but it's a topical thing at the moment because obviously with Treaty United we saw it against that loan. You know, they were against 10 men, but you know, coming towards the end of the game, they were in the lead. Maybe slightly early, started, you know, effectively, you know, trying to kill the game, maybe a bit of time wasting and that, and it seemed to backfire. And it seems like you're suggesting it was the same for Peak Villa in comparison.
Well, they're an attacking outfit, Adrian. I said that you know, throughout the season, and especially since we knew, for instance, they were going to be playing Pike. And I have seen Pete Villa over the last couple of years a few times. They want to attack. That's the way they play. They go out and play the game. They put the ball on the floor. They get players forward. And they were a real threat at 2-1. You know, they created 2 or 3 very good chances. Some latch-ditch defending from Fairview. And remember, when they went ahead 2-1, Fairview went 3 at the back. And he took off 2 attacking-minded players who I thought had a huge influence on the game. And I didn't think they were injured, Adrian. And he brought on 2 defensive players and went 4-5-1 instead of them. And I'm going to tell you now that of the 2 players he brought on, one of them was carrying an injury. He didn't start the match, so he was pre-injured before the game, and he came on in the 5. So I didn't think it suited their setup at all. And I thought Fairview took over the match and the pendulum swung towards them. So you got to be careful what you wish for, and sometimes you got to stick to your strengths. And I didn't think Pete Villa did that.
And now I suppose the reward that all the Limerick sides will get for that, Aidan, is a bumper weekend of action now, which has been confirmed for Saturday the 15th of April and Sunday the 16th of April. Both games will be taking place at Jackman Park, Aidan, as well. So that's great for the Limerick soccer public to get out and take in games. And they'll be within 18 or 19 hours of each other as well, because Ballynanty Rovers will take on Regional on Saturday, the 15th of April at 7 p.m, while Fairview will take on Newmarket. I believe it's at 12 o'clock on the Sunday, the April 16th. So it promises to be a great weekend, and surely we'll be there in our droves.
I'm surprised that game on Sunday's on early, Adrian, because I thought we'd have passport control there for the Newmarket lads coming in from Clare. But it's going to be a weekend feast of football, Adrian, isn't it? Really 2 fantastic games to look forward to. The game Saturday night is going to be really intriguing with Regional and Balla. And Regional's form has improved markedly the last month or 2. There's no doubt about that, in terms of their league form and their cup form, which has been quite good. All right, fair enough, Ashling beat them in the Lawson, but this Munster Junior Cup has grabbed their imagination. So that's going to be an intriguing game. I think the general consensus around is that Ballynanty are favourites for the day, Adrian, but you couldn't be right. You couldn't be right in Regional out of this. Absolutely not, given some of the players they have at their disposal. And the game Sunday, what a game that's going to be between Newmarket and Fairview. And Newmarket did really well last weekend as well, Adrian. I was talking to someone involved. Very comfortable win down against Ferrybank. I think 3-1. They weren't flattered with the 3-1.
Yeah, it does promise to be a really exciting weekend. Clare will be looking to spoil the party slightly on that weekend, Aidan. But obviously we'll go into a lot more detail coming up to those 2 games as well on this podcast, and we'll do a big build-up on Sport Limerick for those. You mentioned Regional, Aidan. They, in league action this week, they travel to face Pike Rovers in Crossagala. It's funny you say it, because of Ballynanty being seen as favourites for the semi-final tie. Because one of the carrots for Regional going into this game is, surprisingly, if they win, they will actually leapfrog Ballynanty in the league table and go to within 3 points of Fairview. Now, they will have one more game played if they do manage to win this, but you couldn't have foreseen that a few weeks ago even.
Absolutely not. And listen, what a fantastic incentive for Regional on Sunday morning, going up to the current league leaders in a huge game, an absolutely massive game for both teams. As you say, Regional can pop on to 28 points, isn't it?
They actually got to
win. Yeah. Even a point, Adrian. Even a point takes them to join fourth with Ball on 26 points. So a massive incident, and they'll have no fear going up there, Adrian, because as you're aware, the last game, I saw the last league game where they played Pike, and they got an equaliser going into injury time. It was the night of the fog outside in regional, where it looked like the 1-0 to the Pike again until a couple of minutes into injury time, when I think it was Kieran Connell popped up with the equaliser. So they'll have no fears going up there. And on the other side of the coin, you've Pike looking to cement their place on top of the Premier, going on to 41 points if they get the victory there.
Like you're talking 10 points, Aidan, and I know it's one thing you always said, like 10 points, even though they'll have 2 more games played than Fairview. I'm sure Fairview would swap to have the points on the board rather than chasing.
No, it's all about what you've done, Adrian. It's all about points on the board. Games in hand, they mean nothing. You're looking up the table. So a big incentive for Pike. And listen, Pike are playing very well. I saw them against Ballynanty in that last league game, and I thought they managed the game superbly. Certainly saw the goal of the season, in my opinion, from Steve McGann, but managed the game really well. And I think they'll have Owen Hanrahan to come back into the squad. I don't think he was in the squad for that game against Balla that day, so he's due back. So they'll be back to almost full strength, and I'm sure they're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and they do normally get the upper hand on regional. Now, we do know that they strangle a lot of teams, figuratively, of course, when they do play them, particularly at home. I know that the neutral will probably be hoping for a result outside of a Pike win in general anyway, and just for the league, I suppose. Yeah,
we need a result, even if they can manage the draw. Look at it, still gives Fairview some hope in terms of catching Pike. If Pike win this game, it's another 3 points on the board. And listen, what is it? 2 goals conceded, Adrian, in 14 league. I mean,
that's crazy stuff.
I mean, it's one of the listen, if they pull this off this season and win this league title with that sort of a record, it'll go down as one of the best league seasons ever. Now, listen, I'm jumping the gun a bit, but 14 games and only 2 goals conceded. It's just absolutely astonishing at this football, Adrian. It's astonishing at this level of football. And that back four deserve huge credit, and we've spoken about them. Gary Neville, Pat Mullins, who in my opinion is playing the best football of his career, and certainly looks in fantastic condition, Adrian. Absolutely brilliant condition. He's been around so long, and you think that conditioning would wear a bit. It has not. He's just getting better with age. And Adam Lipper and the other backline, the other lads in the backline, absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely, and I suppose that will be an intriguing game Sunday as well. Another intriguing game, Aidan, is actually in the bottom 6. You've Carew Park hosting Coonagh. Just looking at the league tables before this as well, and I mean, would it be fair to say that for the motivation for Coonagh, basically, you get a win here, and surely that seals Premier football for you for another season? Yeah,
I would think so. They must be thinking about that during this week, Adrian, at the sessions they're having. They'll go on to 23 points. You still have Mungrett, I think, on 17 points. You have James on 14. Listen, Jamesborough 5 games left. I think I said to you last week, you're looking at Jamesborough winning minimum 3 matches out of 5, possibly 4 out of 5.
Haven't shown that far all season.
Yeah, and 2 of those games are against Mungrett. 2 of the Jamesborough matches against Mungrett. So I think Coonagh are looking at this certainly as the safety net. If they can get to 3 points here, even a point would be a very good result for them, Adrian. I don't think they've won in their last couple of matches and conceded a few goals, didn't they, against Caherdavin in the 5-3 defeat, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So they'll need to tighten that ship up a bit, tighten that defence up, maybe change the mindset a bit, Adrian, in terms of their shape, and try and come out with a result. I mean, the big thing for Carew Park, obviously, is if they get their 3 points, they match Charleville on 23 points.
And they'll want a response as well, I suppose, considering the Mungrett regional result and performance.
Yeah, and it depends on their attitude and whether they want to win this coveted shield or not, and give your team, Charleville, a run for it. The day.
Have Albert paid off already?
So we'll see. It depends on attitudes Sunday morning. Big game for Coonagh, Adrian, isn't it? Massive game for Coonagh. They'll need a full squad. Certainly need the back line as strong as they can get it, because they'll need to get a result out of this.
It's incredible, really, Aidan, isn't it? Because obviously I do remember from, without putting myself down too much, from playing against Coonagh in the lower leagues, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, that they could be facing. Would it be the 4th or 5th consecutive season that they would get Premier Football for? Which, considering the fact that the club had never really reached high echelons, would be an unbelievable achievement, to be fair.
A fantastic achievement for them, Adrian, given where they came from, and they still have a lot of guys that would have been on that run for the last 4 years, like Jeremy Miles and Gordon McKevitt, and there's a few others there. And the other good thing, Adrian, and as you know, I've experienced it being out there, having played with the B side for a few years, is that a lot of the youngsters that were on the B team that I was involved in have made the step up for the first team, which is great to see, because you're churning out your own the whole time. Now, obviously, in the last couple of years, they had to mix it up. They brought in a few fellas from, I think, a few fellas in Ballynanty, like Aidan Ryan and Andrew Layden has joined there, and a few more. But that had to be done, because you do need to mix it up a bit, because it's hard to hold on to your own as well. And especially with Coonagh, a lot of lads have moved abroad and stuff like that. But they've done really well. And it's great to see some of their own still connected. Ian Connolly's still connected with the management team there. And I'm delighted to see that. And it's very important for the club. And look, I've always wished them the best. They're a former club of mine, having played with the second team down there. So I'm hoping that they do well, Adrian.
I really hope that I haven't jinxed it there by almost preempting that they'll already be in Premier next year. They probably wouldn't thank me for that. But Aidan, actually, there was another outside of Premier, which I know is our main focus every week, particularly with Munster Junior and FAI Cup competitions, because generally it's the Premier sides get that far. I have been slightly criticised in the last few months, maybe, for not delving a bit into the lower divisions. It's a fair point. It's a fair argument, to be fair. It's just that, you always want to focus maybe on one division, because if I was trying to focus on all of them, we'd probably get nothing done or nothing concrete done. But anyway, in saying that, I was trying to add it maybe at the end of every week to maybe have a discussion about a certain division or a certain team from another division. And one team that has caught my eye, I was aware that they were top of the division, because I know Castle Rovers, my old team that's playing in the same division as them, is Caherdavin Celtic. Aidan, there's been a bit of turbulence maybe in the last few years at Caherdavin. They haven't went below the 4th tier, but they're back in the 3rd tier of football now. As long as I remember, Caherdavin were always a 2nd tier team, never really seemed to go up, never seemed to go down, but they are in the 3rd tier. But 13 victories and 1 draw from 14 games in a league season by any stretch is an unbelievable achievement. And obviously they're odds on to be champions, never mind get promoted. That's been a really good season for them.
Fantastic revival, Adrian. If you were asking me to name a manager of the year, you'd have to be looking at Carew, wouldn't you? This Caherdavin side, and he's revamped the side the last 2 seasons, Adrian. In terms of the age profile, he's revamped it completely. They're a very young team now. It's sprinkled with 1 or 2 maybe experienced players like Keane Williams and that. But he's revamped the squad totally, and they play lovely football. They were promoted last year. I'm very lucky, Adrian, in that they were playing a lot of games here. I can look out my window, actually, and see them playing where I'm living here in Ferndale. I can see the pitch. And they have been on a great run the last few seasons. But the one thing about Carew is he's has them playing a beautiful, beautiful brand of football, a fantastic brand of football, an attacking brand of football. Has them fit, has them training, has the intensity and the vibe back in the club again, and it's great to see it. And they've been on a terrific run. There's no doubt about that this season. For a team that came up, Adrian, it's been a fantastic achievement, because, as you know, when you jump a division, you're jumping a level, and it's not easy. You'll be able to match 5 or 6 teams normally in that division, but there's teams at the top level that you mightn't be able to match. But Carew has jumped that bridge and got the team playing terrifically well. And I'm delighted to see it. And they're odds on to go up. And they had a great win in the cup the weekend as well, Adrian. Beat Palace Green, who were rivals with them last year. Beat them well 7 or 8-0, I think.
And it's funny you say it, Aidan, because I did have an uncle one time who told me, and I remember playing with Castle Rovers as well. And we were in Division 2B at the time, and we were top of that league. And I remember him saying, if you have a really good team that's really, way ahead in that league, momentum is a huge thing. And if you do keep that squad, maybe add 2 or 3 players every season to it. I remember we went up more than 3 years in a row that time as well. Now, you eventually meet your level. Caherdavin, like you said, promoted last year. Looks like they're going again this year. Momentum is a huge thing in junior football. And if you have organisation and a manager who's really interested, it can count for a lot.
Yeah, and Carmine is ingrained in the ethos of Caherdavin for years with their schoolboys, with their youth team, and now obviously with their juniors, and having played in the club himself. And plus the fact he's a fantastic brain for the game, Adrian. I know Carew quite well, tactically very astute, and was a very good centre forward, of course, in his own day, having had spells in the Premier League as well. So listen, I've no fears about them. They're certainly going to go up by all accounts, and when they do get up, and we're not going to put the jinx in them or anything, but when they do get up, I know that Carew will have them set right for the next stage in their development. There's no doubt about that.
It certainly seems to be a whirlwind at Caherdavin at the moment, Aidan. I suppose just on a final mention, there's a big Munster Youth Cup game taking place on Sunday as well at Jackman Park at 2 p.m. Ashton-on-Coddy taking on Villa FC. Of Waterford. We obviously know that Ashton-on-Coddy, have been making strides in terms of the population, even and the amount of players they have playing at underage level in the club. I suppose, look, if you're looking at it, if you're likes of John Lysett, who's the manager of the A team and other junior teams below, you'll be looking at this saying this is an encouraging sign that you're getting your teams to the last stages of the Munster Youth Cup.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's great for the club. But you know what now, Adrian? I'd expect them to be getting there. There's a lot of resources put into the teams out there, a lot of coaching. The quality of the youngsters out there has always been very good from 9, 10, 11s up. They have a big catchment area. So I a bit like us talking about us expecting 3 or 4 teams to be reaching the last 8 and the last 4 in terms of the junior level of the Munster Junior Cup and the FAI. I would expect Ashton to be reaching this stage of the provincial and national competitions regularly every season, given the amount of work and resources they put in to their youth system out there. And we've spoken about the template of the club before, Adrian. And I feel, and I said this, we've spoken about this. This is the way it needs to go. They should be reverting to this. And these youngsters are quite good. They have a very good side here, very good squad. And the next step for this squad should be promotion to their Premier A team and their junior team. And that's what the club need to do. And keep these youngsters together. Make sure they put a system in place that these youngsters aren't going anywhere else. And that you're not setting up the system that the youngsters aren't going to be promoted into Premier A and to the obviously the Premier team, which is going to be very important. But obviously we wish them the best of luck on Sunday. Very important for the club. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And we want to see them getting a result on Sunday. And best of luck to them.